everyone and welcome back to my channel. As we are approaching June, I thought it would be a good time of year to do the mid-year book tag. At the time of this recording, I have read 35 books and I will have a full reading wrap-up at the end of June of all of my reading from the second quarter of the year. I wanted to start off talking about some general stats and then we'll go into the questions in the tag properly. So for my overall rating, I currently have given out an average of 3.84 as my star rating, which I'm pretty sure is almost exactly what my overall average rating was for 2022. One thing that I've been tracking that I find particularly interesting is publication dates. And by percentages, pretty much everything is the exact same as last year too, where the current year's new releases are the second highest category, and then the releases that were the previous year's backlog is the highest category I'm reading from. So basically that means I've read more 2022 releases percentage-wise this year than I did last year when they were new releases, which I think checks out and I think is probably going to stay the same for this year, since I don't foresee myself reading too many of the 2023 releases that have come out. Personally, there's been very little that has interested me that's new that's come out so far this year. My most common genre has been fantasy, which is 42%, followed by historical, which is 23%. To be honest, I think this is a little bit incorrect and that fantasy should be slightly higher, since I usually label all of the danmei that I'm reading as historical because they have that ancient Chinese setting, but they're also fantasy too, so I kind of need like a dual category for those ones. In terms of most popular author, it's kind of embarrassing, but the highest one has been Katee Robert, who I've read all 5 books in the Dark Olympus series from. The next 2 most common at 3 books was both Holly Black and Stephanie Garber. And then at 2 books we have Margaret Rogerson as well as Wu Bao Boqi Rao, who wrote the Husky and White Cat Shizun series, as well as Mo Xiang Tongxu, who wrote Grandmaster Demonic Cultivation. And I think those danmei authors are definitely going to be the ones that will increase the most for the rest of the year as more volumes of Husky and White Cat Shizun comes out, and as soon as I finish the rest of the Grandmaster Demonic Cultivation and then start Heaven Official's Blessing. But that's enough of the stats, and let's go into the actual questions for the tag. The first question is, what is the best book you've read so far in 2023? So I'm going to talk about the 3 distinct 5 stars that I've had. There have been very few so far this year, and I've been really picky, and I think I've been reading a lot more so quick, fun reads over ones that I really want to call long-term faves. But there are a few that have cracked that threshold, and they are the Grandmaster Demonic Cultivation. This is the 4th volume, but the 3rd volume was actually the one that I first gave 5 stars. I think either this one or the 5th one is going to also end up being 5 stars. I'm just waiting until I finish the 5th volume to kind of decide which one of these I like enough to give 5 stars, but the other one will probably be a 4.5 star, and just overall the series is a 5 star for me. The 3rd volume was my favorite because I really feel like it focused a lot on my favorite dynamic, which is between the brotherly relationship of Wei Wuxian and Jiang Cheng, whereas I think the 4th volume is the most like thematically forward volume in helping you understand the plot and what the characters' motivations are. Just overall, I really enjoyed the series. I'm so happy that there's so many different adaptations of it for me to enjoy in different ways in the future as well. Another 5 star I had earlier on in the year was Howl's Moving Castle by Diane Wynne Jones. This book is so fun and was just a surprise for how much I liked it. I've never been a huge stan of the Hayao Miyazaki film version of Howl's Moving Castle, but the book has just so many sweet and like fun, whimsical touches that I think the movie misses out on. And I overall just really enjoyed the relationship of Sophie and Howl in the book a lot more. I think Sophie has a lot more agency and like personality in the book that's kind of glossed over in the movie. And overall, I just really enjoyed the writing style and also the audiobook narrator that I read it from. I think she did a great job of bringing all the characters to life and just overall having such a really fun vibe for the book. And the last 5 star I had is a huge surprise for me, and that book was one I just recently finished, which is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. My history with Taylor Jenkins Reid was that I read Daisy Jones and the Six because it seemed like the one of her books that I would be most interested in. And I ended up giving it like a 3.5 vibe. I was very much underwhelmed by it. I think overall I just didn't really connect to the story and didn't really like Billy as the main character. Carrie Soto is Back kind of came onto my radar because I knew it was a really big release from 2022, and I figured I'd check it out as part of like my series where I've been reviewing all of the big releases that came out in 2022. I was dragging my feet on it a little bit, but I eventually just decided to go ahead and listen to the audiobook, and I was blown away by how much I enjoyed it. Taylor Jenkins Reid has often been praised for how much she makes her characters feel like real people, and I feel like that was really well on display here. I feel like there was also just so many different layers and themes that were being talked about, like grief, familial relations, ambition, and like the acceptability of female rage. It also is a book that's about tennis, and I don't like sports at all, but at the same time, I was so engrossed in the story and felt like I could see all of the matches play out in my head like a movie. I just really enjoyed all of the characters and like the messages of the book overall. I was a little bit unsure if I was going to put this as a 4.5 or a 5. Maybe over time it will kind of lessen in like relevance in my brain and it will go down to being a 4.5 and not necessarily like a long-term fave. But for where it is right now in my heart, I'm going to give it a 5-star. The second question for the tag is, what is the best sequel you've read in 2023? And this one is going to be the third volume of Grandmaster Demonic Cultivation, for all of the reasons I said previously. The next question is, what is a new release that you haven't read yet but want to? I have two for this category, which are both books that I currently own. The first one is Unseelie by Evilise Houseman. This is a YA fantasy story that focuses on two sisters. I believe one of them is human and the other one is a changeling, so she's actually fae, but I think has been raised to be a human her whole life. I believe the changeling sister is also canonically autistic, and it's written by an autistic female author, so really good representation that I want to support on that fact alone. But at the same time, I feel like I will enjoy the overall vibe of the book. The other book is one I've talked about on my channel multiple times before, and that is Bitterthorn by Kat Dunn. This book came out in early May, and I finally got my copy in the mail. This is a Sapphic Beauty and the Beast retelling that I think also has a lot of similarities with Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and I'm very excited to start this one very soon, and hopefully finally find a sapphic romance that I really like. The fourth question is, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? You know how I just said that there wasn't not a lot of 2023 releases that I'm really excited for? Well, that is definitely going to change in the second half of the year. To give a quick list, we have the third and final book in the Last Binding trilogy, which is A Power Unbound by Freya Marske. Then we have the last book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber, which is A Curse for True Love. Then we have the third book in the Hollowstar saga by Ashley Shuttleworth, which is A Grim and Sunken Vow. And then we have the second book in the Thorngrove series, I think that's the official name for it, by Adeline Grace, and that is Foxglove. And lastly, Lyndall Clipstone is coming out with a new book, which is Unholy Terrors. I have all of those on pre-order except for A Power Unbound. Just because I wasn't super into the second book in the series, I want to see how the last one follows through before decide if I want to own a copy of all of the series. I also feel like I probably would wait for it to come out on paperback so I could get the paperback versions of all of the books instead as well. Or alternatively, try and hunt down the Owlcrate exclusive editions of the books, because I really like the look of those special editions in particular. The fifth question on the tag is, what is your biggest disappointment? I don't know if I have necessarily a specific book in this list. It's more like litfic as a genre in general. I feel like just overall it doesn't hit the same for me as it does for other people. And I feel like it might be because the litfic I'm reading, in my opinion, does very little in terms of deeper character work. It all feels too thematic or archetypal, if that makes sense. Just not a lot of the aspects that I really gravitate to in other genres are present here. So overall, I've still been on the hunt for a litfic book that really works for me. The next question is, what is your biggest surprise of the year? The first one that came to mind was Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This was a new release that, for me, actually lived up to the hype. And also made me think that I can enjoy cozy fantasy as a genre. Another series that I mentioned a little bit earlier was the Dark Olympus series by Katie Robert. It's not something I ever thought that I would get addicted to, but I do really just like Katie Roberts' really simple, bingeable romance style. And I'll probably read some of her other series in the future as well. And lastly, there was a book I just talked about, being Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Taylor Jenkins Reid is such a powerhouse in the booktube community that I was just waiting to see if there would ever be a book from her that I would enjoy. And I'm very pleasantly surprised that I liked this one so much. I think there is a little bit of a divide in her fan base where there are people that are really strong Daisy Jones and Evelyn Hugo fans, and then there are people that are really strong Malibu Rising and Carrie Soto fans. So that gives me hope that maybe Malibu Rising would be my next best bet to like another one of her books. The next question is if you have a new favorite author. The author I chose for this is someone who is new to me, and that is Stephanie Garber. I just think she has a really unique vision and energy to her writing style. All of her characters are just so fun and colorful, both in personality and aesthetic. And I just feel like overall her writing style is very distinctively her, and I find her artistic vision very refreshing and enjoyable to read. The next question is, who is your newest favorite character? It's definitely not new, but I love Wei Wuxian so much. He fits a lot of archetypes that I really like, of this playful smartass who never takes himself too seriously but is also a genius. The next question is, what is a book that made you happy? For this, I'm going to say the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, even though not everything in the book is particularly very happy. I just feel like the story is so fun and campy, and the world is so colorful and bright and whimsical. The next question is, what is the most beautiful book you bought so far this year? And I have two answers for this question. The first one is the special edition of the 5th volume of Grandmaster Demonic Cultivation. The character art on this one is definitely my favorite of the 5 volumes, and the special edition also came with a lot of fun additional items as well. And the other book is the UK edition of The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. I went back and forth a lot on which editions of this series I wanted to collect, and I decided to get the hardcover while it was still in stock before it switches over to just be the paperback versions. Although I do really like the paperback ones and the paperback edition of Once Upon a Broken Heart. But I'm kind of just settled on the fact that I'm going to own a bunch of mismatched versions for this series, because I did pre-order the American version of A Curse for True Love, just because I wanted the special edition extra content that came in that one. And I do vastly prefer the UK covers overall, but I think the third book in the series is definitely my least favorite of the 3 of them. But I really love the overall look of this book. A lot of really beautiful details in it. The next question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So in terms of my goals, I really want to make more progress on my 23 books in 2023 list. And overall, I just want to keep up to date with all of the series that I've started over starting a bunch of new series. Which is good because a lot of the books on my 23 books in 2022 are either standalones or series that I have now started in the first half of the year. So my goal is to make as much progress with that list as I can, and then I'll branch out from there on other series as I see fit. And the last question of the tag is, who is your favorite BookTube community member? To be honest, I think I watch a little less BookTube now than I did last year. I just feel like I want to develop as a person and a content creator without comparing myself to other people's work. And sometimes it feels like I'm doing more research versus watching videos for fun, if that makes sense. But there are some people who, as soon as they upload a video, I will drop everything to watch it. And some of those people are Jamie's Library and Katie's Reading. And also Riley Marie. I feel like she is so creative, and a lot of her video concepts, I feel like I get a lot of inspiration for them for video ideas for myself. And then the only booktuber I think who I've kind of added to my rotation that I found since the end of last year was Allison Pages. I think I found her channel initially in December of 2022, and I watch pretty much all of her videos now. So that is my mid-year tag for 2023. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'd love to hear your answers to any of these questions in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking it or subscribing if you aren't already. Consider following me on the Storygraph, which is linked in my description if you want to see my reading updates in real time. Consider following me on Instagram, which is linked on my channel page. I do book reviews on pretty much every book I read over there, so you can see my thoughts on the books before I do my quarterly wrap-ups. So that is going to be it for me today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!